Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the API Innovators series, where we explore how D4H users are driving innovation by using the D4H API. I'm Mario, the CTO of D4H, and today I'm joined by Dan, who is the tech lead on our D4H Team Manager platform. Hi, Dan, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Like Mario said, I'm the lead developer on the API v3 in particular.
Great. Dan is the perfect co-host here for this live stream. As you said, he's work on the API for team managers. So I guess we will have a lot of questions for our guest today.
Yeah.
And so I'm going ahead then and introduce our guest today, which is Tom Atkinson from York Rescue Boat. Hi, Tom. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So, Tom, before we get into the details of how you use the API, can you give us a quick introduction of what York Rescue Boat is and your role there?
Yes, so York Rescue Boat is an independent lifeboat based in York in the UK. We were started just under 10 years ago after a series of deaths on the city's rivers, and the team was formed to try and make a difference there. We have two different approaches. We have the proactive approach, so we do patrols in high-risk times during the year, and we also do the responsive call-outs when people need it.
Nice. I guess we are here because you're using D4H, right? So what modules are you used and how do you use it daily for your work at York Rescue Boat?
Yeah, so we used the team manager for tracking everything from qualifications, attendance, upcoming events and training and incident reporting. We used Operations Center for real-time incident management, tracking where the team are, tracking the assignments on an incident, and providing that full sort of end-to-end account for the incident. The picture on the screen there is a good example of how we run our incidents. So we've got incident manager down there on the right in our operations van.
Oh, that's really cool. And you've been users of D4H for a long time, right, Tom? At what point you felt the need that to use the API and what problems you're trying to solve? You're trying to solve with the API.
Yeah, so we've been using D4H basically since the start of the team, which is really good for us because it means it's the single source of truth for everything in the organisation, and we're quite fortunate. Everything is there from a historic point of view. The key things we started using the API for were to simplify a lot of manual processes, things from creating IT accounts for people when they join the team, synchronizing qualifications, to our e-learning platform and tracking compliance on policies and procedures. And the flexibility of the API has allowed us to really simplify that.
Okay, cool. So would you say that those are good to have things, or they are more like real requirements for you, like that you couldn't live without?
At the time, it was a nice to have, but the more we've developed it and the more we've worked with it, it's become a must have for us. All of the team are volunteers, so a lot of the sort of manual admin tasks are in people's spare time on an evening outside of work. So by streamlining that and automating that, it's actually giving people more time to do other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you working on these mainly by yourself, or do you have someone helping you with the integration with the API?
So there's a couple of us. So there's myself and Harry, who's our D4H coordinator within the team. So he sort of is the point of contact for our team members for all things D4H.
All right, nice. So let's get into the details then. Let's see more in detail how you're using the API and the solutions that you've created. So you mentioned there the synchronization of users, right? Synchronization of qualifications, and I know also that you have a project going on with the reporting, right, and analytics. But let's get gradually there. So tell us a little bit more of the user synchronization, why you need that, and how you're using the API for that.
Yeah. So when I joined the team as the IT team lead, it was hugely manual to create accounts for people, create email addresses, create accounts on the various systems we have. So one of the things I sort of set about to begin with was how we could make that easier and essentially make it more compliant for when people join and leave. So we have a HR system that pulls a feed from the D4H API, pulls the member data and group memberships within D4H, and those group memberships then decide what systems that user has access to. All members get a Google Workspace account, which gives them the email address, gives them the file share. And on the screen now is how we present that. So all the groups in D4H are actually created in Google Workspace as security groups and mail groups. So we can actually use the internal mail system to contact the members based on their D4H roles and permissions. And we can also share files with those individuals, grant access to those individuals based on their D4H group membership. The group membership will then also give them access to other systems. So, for example, our operational crew, based on their group, get access to our radio platform and our body worn video solution, and it's all dynamic based on group memberships.
And so my understanding is that D4H in this case is the source of truth, right? So you're synchronizing them out into your Google Workspace, right? So.
Yeah. So we essentially have an orchestrator that sits in the middle that pulls the data from D4H, evaluates it, and does the rest of the actions with that.
All right. And what technology are you using for this? I mean, this is, I know we're going a little bit technical here, but it's also good to understand, if you're using something fancy or I know some customers have used, for example, Microsoft Power Automate, which is very intuitive tool for low code tool. So for the less expert. So yeah, can you give us an overview of how this works? And
so it started out as a Logic app, a Microsoft Logic app, which is similar to a Power Automate flow. It got very complicated very quickly, and one of the limitations with the permissions in D4H meant that we had to split HR data out of D4H. So we almost have this separate HR system that sits in the middle now to store that sensitive information, and that's a system called Odoo, which is an open source enterprise management software. Being open source, we've then been able to write plugins for that does that orchestration and flow.
All right. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, Tom. So let's move to the next integration then. Let's see. We have a question here before we move on. Do you use the API to collect and import training activities, completion, etc.? Scott.
So we don't use it to collect training as such. We do use it to collect and import training from the e-learning solution, but not sort of physical training. That's still managed through D4H.
So you import training, yeah? Some training from the e-learning. You said, I think Tom froze. Let's see if Tom can reconnect. All right. While we wait for Tom to come back online, we'll give it another few minutes. I guess this is a a good opportunity to chat a little bit about the API, Dan. API v3. I know that there are a few more features coming up in the near future, right? So I mean, we are always adding new features as we go, especially in the new version of the API v3, as you know. And so do we have anything coming up in the short term, Dan, that we can give a sneak peek to users?
Well, we kind of are prioritizing what endpoints or what features we're adding to the API based on what users ask for, basically, and our own needs, of course. I think costing, personnel and equipment costing is one that people are asking for that hopefully we'll be able to get working on soon. I think the last one that went out was tags, I think, for activities. So that's out there now. I think stuff like member creation. I know that Tom was actually asking for that one before, which is being able to create members and issue invites and things like that via the API, which would be a great one to add. And I think the next one on the list is things around member management, like that, like being able to retire members, and things like bulk actions as well, like being able to affect change across a lot of different equipment items or a lot of different members at the same time. Eventually, like the end goal for us is for Team Manager itself to use API v3 entirely itself and our mobile apps to use it. So it's in our interest to eventually have every single resource and every piece of data available from the API.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, you heard there some cool new features coming up, especially the bulk actions. So we get to there, some other stream, hopefully, probably towards the end of the year. All right, Tom, great to have you back.
Power cut.
No problem. We got some time to chat about API v3 and some upcoming features, which is actually a nice topic for conversation for us later if we have time in the call here in the stream. So let's move to the next. Yeah, let's see. Okay, we have another question from Scott. Thanks. Would like to know how you import from your learning system.
Yeah, so the learning system we use is Moodle, and it's just a custom plugin that we've written using the D4H API just on course completion. It pushes the status into D4H.
Does that also use your orchestrator that you mentioned before? Does everything run through that, or?
No. So the Moodle stuff talks directly to D4H. The orchestrator creates the accounts in Moodle and tags the users with the sort of IDs. So it'll tag them with the D4H user ID as a custom field, and then we use that custom field to push the status back.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about then the next integration that you've implemented, Tom. It's around qualifications, right?
Yeah. So the Moodle system we've built, it was developed about 18 months ago to sort of simplify the training requirements for the team. We were very reliant on face-to-face training for a lot of things, and CPD could be delivered through e-learning for certain elements. So we built an e-learning system up, and when we built that originally, again, it was manual. So somebody completed the course in Moodle. The training team would then go, "This has been completed," award the qualification in D4H. That was a lot of overhead. So we then developed the custom plugin to then push it directly into into D4H. Now, there's two elements to that. There's the sort of standard sort of qualification stuff, which is what's on screen here. So there's the mental health awareness training. User completes that. As soon as it's completed, it meets the completion conditions within Moodle. The qualifications awarded on D4H and expiry set where required. The other element isn't qualifications as such. It was another manual process that we solved with Moodle. Some of the policies and procedures the team have to follow have to be agreed to on a regular basis. So some of them have to be signed once a year, once every 2 years, things like that. That used to be in D4H in the documents with a comment on it to say it's been read, and then somebody would pick that comment up and say this person's read it and award the qualification. So we've got the compliance view. What we've done is move that into Moodle, which is the e-learning solution, and all the member then has to do is read the policy, tick the box at the bottom, say they agree to that policy, and D4H is then updated via Moodle. Once that's then coming up to expiry, so 60 days before it's up for expiry, Moodle then removes the completion so that the user can then go back in and re-agree to the policy. And I've got a demo for that. So I'll just share my screen.
Great.
So you should be able to see my screen now. So on the screen here is just an example of one of the policies that we have. This is my record that I've just adjusted to say expired yesterday. And I'll just refresh just to prove that that's expired. If we then go into the learning portal, into Moodle, there's the list of policies here. And I'll just open the code of conduct. Read through it. This is the world's quickest policy read. Once it's completed, within a minute or so, we then get the qualification status updated within D4H and the relevant expiry.
That's cool. You said this is a plugin in this Moodle, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think it's something? Is it open source? Are you planning on sharing it?
The long-term plan is to open source some of the stuff. We just need to obviously come up with the processes internally to make sure we're doing that properly. And there'll need to be a bit more review on the code because it's just my code at the minute, which, as we all know, sometimes a second pair of eyes is always good.
I'm asking this because I see already some questions. And I think after seeing this stream, a lot of people will be asking for a similar thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is also the power of the API, right? If someone implements a solution, it's nice also to share it to the broader community, and so that everyone can benefit from it. Yeah. We really try to invest a lot in these. In the community, in the D4H community, you know already we have extension packs, for example, which allow you to share templates in Operation Center templates and other things, so that you have them, you have everything ready for essentially every scenario. So okay, so let's. Looks great, Tom. Impressed, LinkedIn user. Well done, Tom. And Jeff is asking, have you exposed your API endpoints to any no-code solutions like Zapier or Notion? So at the moment, we don't have a direct integration, as in you don't see the D4H API as in the list of the Zapier available actions or triggers. However, Zapier allows you to to use generic APIs as well if needed. So I know that our API has been used with success with the other no-code or low-code tools. Zapier should be no exception. Right, Dan? I mean, there's no complicated.
I mean, it's ultimately it's just another REST API. So anything like that should work perfectly fine. I know that some people have used Retool, I think it's called, and things like that to also make queries to the API.
Yeah. So, the API, the solutions there, the opportunities are endless, really, once you have access to the API. All right, let's move on. Tom, do you have anything else to show us?
So the other sort of final use case I was going to talk about today was our assessment process. So we have a digital assessment record, essentially. So when a crew member finishes their training for a particular role, there's a competency assessment at the end of that process. This used to be a traditional clipboard with tick boxes, and then it'd be scanned in and uploaded to a qualification. In the spirit of digitizing things and making things easier, we've created an Excel spreadsheet, because every good thing starts with an Excel spreadsheet. Using Google Sheets and their sort of app script backend, you can create some pretty cool integrations. So what we've actually managed to do is create a digital assessment record that we can then use on tough pads, so waterproof tablets, touchscreen tablets that we can use on the water, you can use when we're training, that we can then work through an assessment with an individual, assess the competence, and then if they are competent, it's uploaded to D4H. It was the competency on D4H and the things attached there. So again, I'll just share my screen, and I can just quickly go through that. So we can see again our D4H instance, boat crew competency check. I've just removed my competency, so I'm currently not competent to crew the boat. What we have then is an example of one of the competency records, various sort of criteria, and I've filled this in. At the bottom, we've got a nice button, save to drive. Takes a couple of seconds. And once that's saved, and you can see it's awarded that competency check, and it's actually uploaded the competency check as a PDF, so it can't be changed, and it's a record in time of that assessment. It tracks who's done it and what the outcome of that was, and we can then use that for tracking progress over time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it's so smooth, right? I mean that's well done, Tom. That's impressive. And how do you link the Excel spreadsheet with the record on D4H?
So there's a hidden sheet which pulls the member data from D4H, tracks their D4H user ID. So when you select the member at the top of that assessment, it's got a field that basically says what their D4H user ID is. There's then it uses AppScript, which is a Google product, which is part of the Google Workspace suite. And basically, when you press the button, it fires the macro that says save this file. It actually saves a PDF copy to the shared drive, so the charity shared drive. So we've got an archive of it, and then it uses the D4H API then to award the qualification for the competency and upload the attachment.
All right. Do you invoke the D4H API from the script, or there is something? Yeah, from the script.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's AppScript. It's called, which is the product. It's basically JavaScript. It's a stripped down JavaScript runtime, which is quite fun. Sometimes get some of the features you'd expect to work that don't work.
All right, that's interesting. You've used quite a few technologies then there to invoke the API. Yeah, that's the first actually I'm using. I'm hearing that some AppScript has been used to invoke the API. So yeah, this is fantastic. It actually shows how flexible it can be, by just having a REST API. Amazing. Well done, Tom. I think our users, will have. I've had some good inspiration from you. Melissa is asking, I'm interested in being able to see live feeds of location points from D4H, largely from the Ops Center in private Esri web maps. I'm new to using APIs. Would you suggest personal or organization tokens? All right, so I'm guessing we're talking about Operations Center here. Yeah. So our recommendation is to use at the moment personal access tokens. Is the main way at the moment we offer in Operations Center to authenticate to our APIs. So the personal access token can be attached to what we call a system user, so a user that you create specifically only for, let's say, background operation. So it doesn't have to be a real user; it's just a user used for to authenticate the API. So live feeds of location points. So everything starts from there anyway. Depends how you have where you have those location points actually. The easier thing would be to export those location points at the moment using CSV. Well, different formats, right? Yeah, CSV, for example, you can export them and then import them into Esri. But you can use also the API for sure. If you contact us at help@d4h.com, we will be able to point you to the specific endpoints that you can use to for that. All right. Let's move on. Tom, before we move to your feature requests, I know that you have plans for the future, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the project that you are working on. That I know is not ready yet, but it's about analytics and reporting, right? So, and you're planning to use the API for that. So, what are you trying to solve? And yeah, what would you be? Would you how you envision it, like when it's complete?
Yeah, so the reporting in D4H is really good, but we'd like to be able to sort of combine reports and be able to produce management reports of multiple data sets in a simple way. The main use case for this at the minute is for members to be able to track any equipment that they have issued to them and when the expiry date of that inspection is. So we can report on a member level or we can report on a team level to see when that's expiring in an easy to sort of digest format. So what we're looking at is, again, with the Google suite of products, Looker Studio is their sort of BI solution. And we're looking to create a custom data connector to be able to pull the information out of D4H, so be able to pull member information, equipment inspection information, and then hopefully build on that to be able to do sort of reporting on incidents. So we can start to do sort of slicing on instant time of day, location, types of incident. And then if we start to stretch it a little bit more, then looking at sort of demographic of casualties and things like that in a simple format. It's very, very sort of early stages to the point where there's unfortunately nothing to show at the minute. It's very much just sort of coming up with a plan of what data sets we need and how we're going to sort of pull that in and present that.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, that is I think a very common use case to extract some data from D4H to create custom reports or custom analytics. Yeah, as you said, that we already offer some quite extensive reporting capabilities in D4H, but the problem is that there are infinite type of reports that you can create, really, and that really becomes really custom and really specific to a certain use case or customer organization. So it would be impossible for us to model all these use cases in a simple way without us actually becoming a business analytics software, as in the the big names as out there, like Oracle or IBM or the others. So the best actually would be to extract data and from D4H import it into a business intelligence platform, which is actually made specifically for that, and extract some nice reports from there. This is actually interesting because we've had talks internally about how can we simplify these, because right now you would have to invoke each API endpoint one by one, right, to extract the different entities. It would be nice to have something like you can connect the BI tool directly to D4H as a source of data.
I think one of the big things for us, if we could get some sort of endpoint that basically produced the CSV output, that would be the easiest way for us to integrate some of that. The API, the V3 API is moving towards that, but there's a lot of information in there that you've then got to filter out that you don't need for the reporting. We've been able to produce reports based on static CSV straight from D4H, but obviously that's static and we then have to update the data set. If we could dynamically pull that, I think that's the sort of compromise between the flexibility and the integration.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, at the moment, Dan, we don't have any way to export, let's say, CSVs from the API, right?
Not directly from the API, no. It's all through the TM interface.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something we'll be looking. So CSV for a specific entity, right? Let's say equipment or members.
Or like inspections, incidents.
All right. Makes sense. Perfect. All right. Thanks, Tom. All right. Let's move on then to your plans for the future. You mentioned already the reporting. Is there anything else you would like to use the API for? And is there anything that you want us, D4H, to help you with in terms of implementing new capabilities?
Yeah, I think the main one for us at the minute, well, the two sort of main ones. The first one I'm not going to mention too much because I know it's coming, and that's the granular permissions. And that, from a compliance point of view for us, is going to be great. The second one is an ability to be able to create members through the API. Now, at the minute, we can update members, delete members through the API, but we can't create them. So the user onboarding piece, at the minute, we have to manually create that D4H account rather than feeding from the HR system. If we can create it from the API, that end-to-end process is fully automated. And obviously, we've got the data consistency there as well in terms of making sure the IDs match. At the minute, somebody creates the D4H account and then puts the user ID back into the HR system, obviously introducing a risk of manual human error there. So that's probably the big burning one for us at the minute.
Okay. Do we have the ability to create users in V2, Dan, at the moment?
Create members? No,
okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But it's definitely something high on the priority list for V3. The reason it's not there already is just because internally it's a little bit complicated once you create a member, and we need to work out a flow for also sending out the invitations to the member as well, because it'd be good to have that via the API as well.
Yeah. And the other one was webhooks. So on an event in D4H, can we fire a webhook to trigger downstream automation or integration?
Yeah. So this will come in OC at a certain point next year. We have customers already asking for it. Well, the reason being Operations Center is a really a live platform real time. So it makes sense that we notify our API users in real time if something changes as well. So they can benefit from this real time behavior. Webhooks will come in Operations Center next year then. Are you asking mainly for Operations Center or for Team Manager as well?
It's probably a combination of the two. The example I'm thinking is triggering, like, again, that user flow. So if a group membership of a user changes, can we trigger a downstream automation rather than polling periodically?
All right. Yeah, it completely makes sense. And for us, would also be a resource saver, right? Because at the moment you have to poll the API regularly to extract the information. But in that case, you would actually invoke our API only once when you get notified about the change.
Yeah.
Operation Center is the first that will get these the webhooks, but it's interesting, actually, Dan. This is something we'll actually need to consider also for Team Manager. We already are working under the hood for a system that spreads across all our internal systems changes to personnel. We're starting with personnel, but it's something that could be easily be adapted with other entities as well, right, Dan? And that probably would be the starting point for to create webhooks.
Yeah, that was my first thought as well. That the system that we're working on would be perfect for delivering messages once a member is updated or a member is added to a group or something like that, or a qualification expires, can trigger an event, and then somewhere can pick that up and make that webhook call.
Yeah. All right, great. And then to talk a little bit about the granular permissions, those are coming. Probably, as I explained in a previous video, we need to shut down API v2, the old version, to actually be able to fully introduce and roll out the granular permissions. This is because it's a completely they require the complete rewrite of our systems, which didn't make sense to make in the old API v2. And so once we shut down the old API, we will be able to iterate faster and get actually fully release the granular permissions to the public, which at the moment they're already implemented. They're are at the base of API v3, but are kind of hidden, and we're just waiting to shut down API v2 to be able to enable them. So that's great. All right, this is it. Unless Dan, do you have more questions for Tom?
Not so much a question, just to say that your IT solution, it seems so robust. I'm very impressed with all these integrations and everything that you have going on. It just seems like a great use of the API and all these other resources. And it's motivational for me to see it being used this extensively.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can just second Dan on that. It's really nice to see our users create new things with the API. It's just fascinating. It's just like having an extension of our team, right? Of our product team, of the development team, which is external of D4H, but it feels like it's part of us, and it's great that it gives this community feeling. All right, fantastic. So this is it. Thanks a lot, guys, and see you in another episode. All right. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Tom, for joining us today with this live stream. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.